Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. Hey guys, imagine dropping out of school because you're getting into the drugs, marijuana, which a lot of us got into in high school. I know I started smoking marijuana probably about 2 weeks before graduation. That was kind of like my first time. But yeah, just busy with life, wanting to do drugs, so you drop out of school and you decide you're going to join the military, and you get into the military, and then guess what? You get kicked out of the military for doing drugs as well. Where the heck do you think life would take you from there? Well, we're going to find out, because our guest today, Marlin, he is definitely going to let us know where life took him. And it was pretty cool, because when I walked in the studio today, Marlin was already here, and he's like, hey, you went to Bingham? I'm like, yeah, I did. So we already have a connection. So Marlin, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us.
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and wasn't it Robin who kind of connected us?
Yeah, Robin is a really good personal friend of mine. We both graduated. We both came to the other side within like a week. Me, Matthew, and Robin. Okay. We're all within like a week of each other, our sobriety dates and the program.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, she and Matthew, man, they're awesome individuals. I don't think I have met a person from Tosa that I have not just fell in love with, to be basic. Just to put it bluntly, they're all just incredible human beings.
Yeah, they are
good people.
It helped me save my life. I love them all.
Yeah. And we are joined today here with my lovely wife, Janan. So
hi, everybody.
Yeah, Janan, thanks for being here with us. Greatly appreciate it. You're starting to become a regular here with us.
I love it.
I know, right? It's pretty cool. So, gosh, Marla, man, you were here pretty early, so we've had a really good conversation. I mean, we almost had half a show booked already just with you and I chatting, huh?
Well, Dave did that to me.
Yeah?
I was always late in everything in my life, and Dave said his famous saying is, if you're not early, you're late, So I try to do that in all aspects of my life, which works out so we can get to know each other and, help out, with the show.
Which was crazy, because I'm usually here about 10 to 10 or right at 10 o'clock, and I didn't get here till I think almost 10 after 10, and then got stuck at the accident that was on the freeway, and then I had to veer off, and then I ran into the construction. Imagine that, construction here in Salt Lake City. It's never ending. It doesn't stop.
It sure does.
So, loved sitting out there and chatting with you beforehand, and more than likely you and I probably know a lot of the same people, because most people from Bingham do, right? Because they all grew up in the West Jordan, South Jordan.
Did you graduate around the same time as Tim?
Yeah,
he was around the same age as him?
He's 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
Senior to me at Bingham, but I have a sister that's 2 years older than me that's probably closer to him. But I mean, that whole circle, the class of 80s to 79, stuff like that, are all fairly close. And I used to hang out with my sister, so I know a lot of the older people at Bingham.
I have a curious question. Do you know any Burrs?
Burrs? I know a Laura Burr that I went to school with.
Jeff Burr? Jeffrey?
It sounds familiar.
Norma Burr?
I know that there were some Burrs that went to Bingham. I don't know them personally, but there was like 3 or 4 of them.
My oldest brother is a year younger than him, and he went to Bingham. And then there's Norma, Jeff and Norma, and they are, she's 5 years older than me, so she's about, 54?
That would be
and 55.
I'm 56, so they'd have been like 83 or 80, or 86 or 85.
Okay.
Most of them know me because
small world.
Most of them know me because I was crazy and got in a lot of trouble. So more people know of me than I know of them, and so they might know me. Yeah,
they're like the most wanted poster at Bingham, right?
Well, when your truck's out in the parking lot and the sheriffs are around it and everybody's wondering what's going on. They kind of figured, what's up with that dude? That was that guy. Yeah,
he was that guy.
I was popular. That's all it is, right? I was popular, but yeah. So, Marlin, I mean, tell us a little bit more about your life, your history.
Well, my history's pretty simple. I don't have any like childhood stuff that like put me through, made me be an addict. I mean,
trauma.
I grew up with a good family. I'm adopted, but they let me know from birth, and they gave me every opportunity. started in the church, went to church all the time with him up until high school. And so I was anti-drug, through 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. And then, like you said, like 10th grade, I decided, let's this marijuana thing. Let's try this out. And, I tried that out, and I'm like, I don't see what this is. It didn't do nothing for me, and, I didn't even really try it for a while after that. And then later on, I tried it, and somebody must have sold me some bad stuff because which I wouldn't, maybe some bunk, whatever, probably, but, something. But I found out what it was, and instantly I found out that I had a way to cope with any time I fell short. In sports, in studies, in everything I did, I had to be the best. Part of that was my adoption. I felt like something was wrong with me. If there wasn't something wrong with me, why would somebody give me away, right?
Right.
That was the story I told myself. So I figured I had to be perfect in everything I did in order to be loved. And that wasn't the case. That was just my own mindset.
How old were you when you got adopted?
From birth.
From birth.
And I have two sisters.
And they just let you know early on in life that you were adopted.
From when I was old enough to understand what that was.
Right.
But as that progressed, I was pretty good in sports, football, wrestling, baseball, all growing up, through Pony League into high school. And then it started getting harder. And I didn't win all the time. And the marijuana helped. I started drinking at the same time, too, about 16.
Yeah.
And the two went together. It was an easy way to, zone out or feel better, of that whole thing. And I learned to quit about that time. When things got tough, I learned how to quit. Instead of going through adversity and figuring out how to get through that, I quit and I turned to marijuana and drinking, and short period after time to dealing marijuana, and then a very short time after that into getting introduced to cocaine.
Wow.
And then going straight from that to dealing cocaine. And it progressed from there to my schoolwork went, my sports went. I failed at everything, and then I dropped out of school, tried to go back to graduate, still fell short. Figured was still in a lot of trouble with the people that I was dealing drugs with, and I decided that a geographical move would probably be in my best behavior,
your best interest.
My best interest.
Yeah.
I mean, I already had two possession with intent to distribution of cocaine and marijuana by the age of, one was before 18 and one was after 18. So
wow.
I figured, I could run away from all that and it'd be great. I went in to boot camp. I had to go through getting a drug waiver because I had convictions to be able to be accepted in the military. And then I pushed it right up until boot camp by doing cocaine before I left with the big party. You know how that goes. And sweated it all out through boot camp, whether or not I was going to get hit dirty and get kicked out before I even started. And I sailed through and I got lucky, I guess. And then my military career started. Nothing changed. I went from boot camp to still drinking on the weekends when we could actually go out and drink. To a school in Great Lakes where every weekend I would go get drunk and met people there. One of my buddies from North Carolina met a girl from Chicago, and she had a cocaine connection, and that started back into the same old stuff, doing cocaine, selling cocaine to guys at the barracks at school, going to Lake Geneva and partying and just running amok. And nothing. I got away with. I worked good. I excelled at work. I made rate. I moved up. I advanced. Everything was going good. Still using, being a what you call functional addict, pretty much. And then I got shipped out and I went to San Diego from boot camp after school in Chicago. There was no cocaine in San Diego. It was speed. So I tried speed for the first time. Didn't really like it that much, but there wasn't really anything else around. So next thing you know, I'm into speed and learning every aspect of how to make that stuff and how to rock it up and all that good stuff. And start selling that. You know.
So was it the speed type, the powder type form?
Yeah, the original.
Yeah, 'cause
the
I-
real speed, not the methamphetamines, the actual speed.
Yeah, because I tried some of that my very first time when I was working construction in Phoenix. And I was 17, still just right out of high school, basically. Went from Colorado to Phoenix. And my right-hand man, his name was Don Armstrong. I'm sure he's not even on this planet anymore. Looked like the Zigzag Man on the rolling papers. Biker dude, ponytail, covered in tattoos. Awesome man. He was kind of like my father away from home. But yeah, he asked me once, we're out going around the job site, putting stuff out, for our crew to get ready. And he's like, hey, you want to do some crank? I never heard of crank. I come from West Jordan, a little farm town, right?
Yeah, there was none of that.
Yeah, what the hell's crank? And he pulls it out, and I'm like, you sure that's not cocaine? Because cocaine's white, right? I've never seen even cocaine before. And he goes, no, it's like a pure form of speed. And he goes, funny this, because you were in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, my buddy, who was a chemist in the Navy, has his own little chemistry place at his house. He put up like a fake wall and does it in his garage, and he makes it himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember doing one little teeny thing, and it burned like crazy.
Make you
My
cry.
eyes were watering. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I'm not much of a Red Bull drinker, but I bet you it was like drinking a case of Red Bull. I was freaking on fire. I was going 1,000 miles an hour like that.
So I just barely, yesterday, learned what crank was. Because I've always wondered, because I heard about it forever, and so I always wondered, and I was like, they're like, it's a dirty form of meth or something like that.
There's three things. You got methamphetamines, you got crank, referred to commonly as bathtub crank, and then you got speed. The speed is actually the pure form of speed that's a chemical made. Crank is actually a whole bunch of different chemicals that they throw in a bathtub and it mixes together, and they put cheesecloth and they pull it out and it's dirty.
Yeah.
It's not
That's
refined.
what
That I did not know.
Yeah, they don't refine it. They don't condense it, and it's just raw. The bikers are, that's their.
They're known for
that's
that.
their norm.
That's probably why he had it, right?
Before the methamphetamines came out here and everybody got into that. That's the only form that you saw. California had the actual speed, and that I didn't really get into too much of the crank until I got into living down Las Vegas and saw a lot of that before it migrated into the methamphetamines. But it's really all the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just different forms.
That's what I was told yesterday.
It's crazy that you said it was San Diego, right?
Yep.
And it was the speed. I would think with San Diego being so close to Tijuana, the cocaine would have been heavier.
You'd think, but I mean, I had every connection possible down there, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Because my drug of choice was cocaine.
Yeah.
I mean, from starting out to snorting that to before I left was freebase and cocaine, and so that's how I got into it. But I couldn't find it there at all. Chicago was a different story. There was no speed at all. It was all cocaine.
No coke, huh? Did you have something?
Oh, I was just going to ask you, so you started doing cocaine at 16? Is that like
It was probably more closer to 17.
Still, I feel like that's really, I want to know, is that normal? I mean, because...
how do you...
define normal, Not for most people, no,
you said normal for, because cocaine's a big, expensive drug, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it normal
back in
for
those,
somebody at your age to be doing that?
Well, the funny thing was like a guy I hung out with in high school. He was drama club. We were total polar opposites, and he had a California connection in Magna for Red Hair Cents a Million, the best anywhere you could find. And so I got with him and we started that. Well, when I was doing that, when I would go over to the dealer's house in Magna, he pulled out some cocaine and would give us a line of cocaine. Hey, try this stuff out. I'd never seen it before. I didn't know what it was. It didn't take long after that little bit of trying out to just love that, and that just took over. But at that time, an 8 ball of cocaine was $350, and that was
expensive.
1980s.
Is that good?
That's expensive.
That's expensive.
Oh,
yeah,
expensive.
it's
Okay.
like 100 maybe
Yeah, way
now or
expensive.
less.
Yeah,
but
it's changed.
so in order to afford that habit, the only thing, I mean, not working in high school, you had to sell that stuff to somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how I got into doing that. And I mean, I still sold marijuana at the same time too. Either I had a Polynesian connection from the islands, so I had the best Hawaiian and the red hair sense of million.
Wow.
And then I had the Peruvian flake cocaine that was the Pablo Escobar days that came from California.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would say no, it's not likely at 17 to be
Yeah,
dealing in the
that's what
top
I'm
end
hearing
drugs
about.
that you
It's
can
like
find. You know, I
A
mean,
lot
it was,
for a 17-year-old, yeah.
Oh yeah, it took me to some bad places.
Yeah.
Heavy duty.
See, and it's crazy too, because when we're at that age, I mean, we think we're invincible, right? We think that we're very intelligent. No one's going to catch us. That we're very, we're low key. When really, we're not even close to any of that.
No, I think one of the things I realized being sober is how much we actually stand out, and people just like put up with it. Because once you get sober, I can pull in a parking lot and I can see what people are doing, and just like that quick, like that guy's waiting to make a buy. This guy's over here watching for people. He's running, that whole thing. But you're right. We think when we're doing that nobody knows. Thought my parents had no idea what's going on, smoking cigarettes and that they can't smell it. They don't know. And they did. They just tolerated it. And how do you spend 17 years with a child and not know when they're off just a little bit or something's changing?
Yeah.
Yep. But the ignorance is bliss. It's easy to tell yourself that, and you can live with it and move on. But
we were actually talking about that at work yesterday. So I work at Papillon Recovery, Integrated Recovery.
Tongue twister.
They were talking about how, like, actually I brought up my son's dad, and how he did some kind of drug. I didn't know what it was. But the way I knew that he was doing the drug is because he'd go into the other room and then come back, just like what you did on that night.
One party, And
that's when I was asking about crank, because I thought maybe that's what it was that he was doing. But I don't know. Anyway, and so, we were talking about how easy it is to hide it. Like they shoot up between their toes and all sorts of things. Because I said, I've never seen a needle mark on him. And so she was telling me how easy it was to do that. And I told her, I said, I thought it was easy to drink and nobody would know, but it's...
To drink?
Drink. Alcohol.
Oh, okay.
But, that you can smell that. You can tell when they're slurring their words, all that stuff. And I'm every time I got drunk and went home, I thought I could hide it from him. Every single time. And every single time, no, I screwed up every time.
Yeah. And like you said, Marla, it's so easy to detect.
Yeah.
When, especially because you've been there, right? And then when you get out of it, you start realizing, oh shit, I probably looked that same exact way. Not knowing it until after the fact. Yeah.
For sure. My parents, they figured out, it didn't take them very long, this fail-safe way to find out if I was using. They would try to feed me, and I couldn't eat. I just couldn't eat. That was part of my issue with using methamphetamines and speed. I couldn't eat, and so I knew that if I ate, I'd instantly go to sleep. For one, two, I couldn't eat. I'd have to force it down, and I ate like a bear most of the time.
Honestly,
so if they hand me a plate of food and I'm like okay, and I'm like going at it, then they're like, something's up.
Yeah.
So they had their own little way of figuring it out, just like everybody else does. Their little quirks, little tells, as you will, if you're gambling.
Yeah.
That people have little differences. You can tell if people are off.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you're in the military and you're in San Diego and you're starting to do the speed, and I guess things kind of started going haywire from there.
Yeah. Well, I shipped out from school and then I went to San Diego, and somewhere along there when I was in Chicago, I was dating somebody. I was going to get married. She was going to school in Chicago. I went to Fleet. Got there, we had rings. We were gonna get married. She was gonna come out, and right before she came out to see me, right before I shipped out to a 9-month overseas tour, and we were together. And then I went out to sea. I would send at least a letter a week, and I never got anything back. And I kept telling myself that there was something wrong with the mail. She didn't have the right address.
Yeah.
And as that progressed, with it not getting anything, I had a burial at sea with my wedding ring, and basically blew that whole thing off. And drank every port we went to. Drank, got drugs wherever I could find them in the ports, and continued my addiction wherever I could. And that part of that helped just change even more of my habits of trying to escape and deal with whatever. And then I got back from the West. Well, I finally got a letter when I was in about 8 months into overseas, from her, that she was pregnant, and she was putting the baby up for adoption. New Year's after Christmas, I was in Hawaii, the last stop before back to San Diego on that tour, and I got a phone call to the captain that she had her baby. So I flew out from from Hawaii to. I figured I'd come to Utah, talk to my mom and dad. What do I going to do? Get some money, and then I was going to go get her and take her to and the baby to San Diego. Well, the night before I was going to fly out to go see her, she told me she'd already put the baby up for adoption, and it wasn't mine anyway. Yada yada yada. And so I told her, I changed my flights. I didn't ever want to talk to her again, and I left and I went back to San Diego and just totally only talked to her like one time after that. And told her, you didn't want anything to do with the baby. You didn't want anything to do with me. I'd never want to hear from you again. And so I continued, off from that, just put that aside and just kept working. I mean, I kept working. I'm like a functional guy with my addiction. Did like you said, the weekend thing. Friday comes, off to the races, come back to work on Monday. And I went from fireman, the lowest point, up to second class petty officer, and until all the fun hit, which was about 2.5 years into my naval career. I had a party, did a bunch of drugs, got in a fight, broke my wrist, and when I came back, they wanted to drug test me, and I got all upset and had it out with my chief, and went to the hospital and got my cast, and they were all apologetic with me because they thought that they'd made a mistake with me using, until the drug test came back, and then they knew that everything changed. At that point, it was about 2.5 years into my enlistment, of a 4-year enlistment. They told me I could go through rehab, and I could, start back up the ladder to finish my enlistment. And I was so angry with life and everything at that point. I decided I wanted to get out. They hit me with 7 charges, possession of drugs. Well, they didn't give me any drugs, but they got me with dirties, dereliction of duty, disrespect an officer, missing ship's movement. They hit me with like 7 charges, and then they put me in legal hold for a month, waiting on my papers to come through, and then I got out. At that point, I came home with an other than honorable discharge. It wasn't a dishonorable, but still, it was without any benefits. Can't really put that on your resume.
Right?
Where you been to work for the last 3-something years? What do you say? So I got a job my dad got me a job with a friend of his doing cable TV. And I started doing that. It didn't take long before I was back into the cocaine again. I started bouncing at the clubs. I started working at Rafters back. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember Rafters.
That's
it's crazy.
4800.
It's crazy that you said cable TV, because that was the construction I got into out of high school.
Well, I picked up riding bikes with Kenny Gilliberry and Danny Letchenberg and Steve Lieberg, all pro racers for Plaza, and I bought me a bike and started thinking that was going to be my career, right? Well, we went out riding one time out at Manning Cycle Park, and one of the guys, I won't say who, pulled out a big sack, and he said, "Here, drop some whatevers." And I'm like, "Really? You're going to give me that and say this?" Obviously, you don't know who I am, right? So I really railed these out, and we all did.
As long as the table.
Yeah, all monsters, dude. I'm telling you. Yeah, and then we all got on our bikes and we rode, and man, I rode like no other. All of us, it was crazy how that intensified my riding.
Yeah.
And then I was back off to the races again. Ended up, losing my job. I ended up losing my job at Raptors because I was dealing in the club, and they knew about it, so that wasn't really tolerated. So
because it was putting their business on the line as well.
Well,
so
it was taking from their business. Let's
Yeah,
just put it that way.
I guess that's
Let's just
a good
put
way
it
of
that
putting
way.
it,
Yeah, back in that day, there was almost all the everybody was hooked into whatever. But I love that place. I mean, I love that atmosphere. But it was just a means to an end. I mean, and then basically from there, my life went to addiction, just the circle of addiction where losing my jobs, getting arrested, ruined relationships, not really accomplishing anything, just working until the point where my addiction would take over and I'd lose my job for not being on time or not being there. And it just continued. I went through the Odyssey House in 1990 to 92 for possession of cocaine. Again, did that, graduated that program, lasted about 2 years, went to school, got my degree in art, commercial graphic art, and slowly fell off after that, back into that cycle. I did several other small patchment programs, basically really everyone in Salt Lake, back into Odyssey House again in 2004 to 2006, graduated, decided I was going to go get my drug and alcohol counseling degree, which I did up at the University of Utah, and got that, started my job with construction, kind of like what Jordan's doing, except for I had my LSAC, which is now CSAC. I think they changed all that. Got married, got a house, the boat, the car, everything I thought that consisted of
being successful.
Right?
Yeah.
But you know what? The one thing I didn't get was how to do relationships, and that slowly spiraled into using again and losing everything once again, and back out on the street. I spent 3 of the 5 years being married locked up for drug. Ended my relationship, my marriage, and ended up me almost dead. I decided at one point when the police came and removed me from my house because she didn't want me there anymore, or our house, I should say. I decided to walk down the block, and well, I should back up a little bit. When I graduated Odyssey House, I've had back issues for a long time, so I went to a doctor and I got on prescribed narcotics for my back. And I took them, for whatever reason, I took them as prescribed. I didn't really ever abuse those. I just didn't. I mean, but eventually, it gets to where you're addicted to them, whether or not you take them as prescribed or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was taking those as well. That was part of the reason leaving Odyssey House, because that, and eventually I got into doing cocaine again. But people would pick up on the using of the actual the pain pills, and it would put people in different places. And a lot of times it wasn't even, I wouldn't even take them at work. I would take them, way before I went to work or after I got off, and I never took them to work, which was my justification. But it still ended up the same road. So the night they took me out of the house with the police, and I walked out with a box like this, and my wallet, my pain pills, I walked up and down the street, figured I was gonna sneak in the garage, sleep there that night till I could figure out what I was gonna do. And the cops were strategically placed around the neighborhood, and it was gonna make sure that wasn't gonna happen, right? So it started to rain, it was muddy, and I'm walking around, I'm what? Just in disarray, and I decided I was done with this, I've had enough with life. And so I walked up to a lady just down the alley from where I lived on Wilson Avenue, and asked her if I could borrow her hose. I needed to take some medication. And she said, sure. She handed me the hose, and I opened up that bottle with about 40 Roxaset 10s, and I poured them down my throat and decided to chew them all up and chase it with the hose. I was done, and I walked a little while. I put my box and hid it, and walked behind the apartment building there, and that was about 10 o'clock at night. I don't remember. All I remember is falling like the worst drunk you could be, hitting my face on the concrete, the wall, and then I guess somehow I took my shirt off, and it was a muddy parking lot, and in my just straws, I was completely covered in mud. They found me at 6:30 that morning. A lady going to work found me and called 911, and they got there, and I was so close to death from just hypothermia for being out in the cold.
I can imagine.
They said like 10 more minutes, I'd have been done, and they whisked me off to not St. Mark's, LDS up there to the
Detox.
yeah. And I was
there.
you know, they didn't put me detox till after I got out of my
Oh, you didn't?
out of my coma that I was in for like
Oh,
for a
geez.
month.
Yeah.
I mean, or for a week, and they didn't think I was ever gonna come back from that. But lo and behold, I came out of it, and they're like, "You don't believe this is happening," and on top of that, I got some nasty bacterial infection stuff from being out there, and got through that, and they're like, we've seen people that have just died from that alone. So amazingly enough, my dad says God has a plan for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So after I went from that to, they sent me straight from there to the psych ward for 30 days until I could prove that I could get out of that place.
Yeah.
So I did, my favorite impersonation of a sane person, and I talked him into letting me go, right?
Your impersonation.
Yeah,
I like how you
it was
put
my
that.
impersonation of a sane
See,
guy,
I'm
right?
good, right?
Yeah, and but I wasn't good, dude. I was that took me a place that took me a long time to come back from mentally, physically, and it just continued to progress off and on. My family, I abused them with taking me in, helping me, every bit of trust I could with them, I totally ruined and put them through the ringer.
Yeah.
Any relationship I had. And my all past, I went from my last thing, I was construction wise, I was with Jacobson. I was a safety officer for Jacobson and a foreman on the Gateway project. And they, I was on APMP for drugs, and they showed up to take me off APMP. I didn't know they were going to do that. I happened to be staying up the weekend before, smoking crystal meth, and on the way to work as well, and they showed up, and I went to jail. The whole job site, everybody saw me, and they were there to get me off paper, but obviously I wasn't being successful with my recovery. But so with all that, I ruined all my career opportunities with Jacobson. Burned almost every bridge with what companies I worked for. Tried to do. Eventually ended up being homeless, living on the street. Had to talk my parents into buying me a van. And lived out of that. Worked temporary. Stayed at Flying J. Any couch served. Gave drugs to people to sleep on their couches, and just continued my addiction until one day I was out still doing that. I was up all weekend getting high, and on the way to somebody's house, I guess the cops were following me because people called in because I was driving erratically. I ended up falling asleep at the wheel with them chasing me, I guess. I don't remember the exact circumstances. It's all in the discovery, but I hit 3 cars and crashed 3 cars, crashed my van. They got me with DUI for methamphetamines, possession of methamphetamines, just a bunch of different charges. I went to jail for the last time. And, in this story, I have 38 convictions. I've spent over 10 years locked up for all for drugs, all drug related. I got a domestic for arguing with my wife and taking the phone from her. So there's a gamut of, the things that have
Just
with my crime stuff.
yeah, they just add up.
Oh, they
add up over the years.
Six felonies.
Yeah.
And it got through that. At some point after I did 6 months for the DUI. Went through the inpatient, the jail CATS program. Odyssey took it over. They just started when they took it over from Valley Mental Health, and it became Odyssey. Went through that, graduated again, decided I was going to get sober, went through the church to get this help to sober living, went into sober living, had every intentions of doing it right, went back doing concrete again, didn't get along with my boss, ended up getting fired and went back on the addiction trail again. At some point with all that, I went to AP&P, talked to him, said, look, man, I can't stay sober. I can stay sober for 2-3 months, but it always comes back to the same place. I'm just, and he was a really good officer. He was trying to help me, and he told me about the Other Side Academy. And 2015, March of 2015, or 2016, my 50th birthday was on March 6th. I went in and had my interview with Dave, and
That's when things started changing.
yeah, and even then I went in the first time walked from AP&P up there, and I'd been using. I still had stuff in my pockets, and they're like, "Dude, what's wrong with you? You're not ready." They said we want you to come back when you're sober. I said, "Oh, that's probably a good idea."
Yeah.
So I left, went for a week, and got myself sober. Came back, talked to him again. They said, well, you need to take care of some things so your head is in the program, so there's nothing outside keeping you from doing what you need to do to work here. So get that taken care of, come back, and we'll talk to you again. So I did that, came back again, had my interview, and then I was accepted into the Other Side, which was, like I said, when Robin was like a week in front of me and Matthew too. And we all became peers and started that road, which was a whole separate road to my recovery.
And I think right here is a good spot to stop for a commercial break. And when we come back for the second half, to go into that new journey, right? Because basically that's what it was for you. And hearing your story, Marlin, and hearing the stories of so many other people who have been on the show, as well as watching my wife go through hers. Yeah. You're sick of how life is going, but yet still, as human beings, we still kind of like I told you before, I called it the hamster wheel. We get off and we're like, okay, this is how my life's going to go. I'm going to do things differently. And then life has a way of punching you in the gut, and you're just like, okay, well, I'm just going to jump back on this freaking hamster wheel, knowing you're probably going to end up right in the same damn place before, if not worse, right? And it's crazy how that happens over and over and over.
Well, I was going to mention that too, because when I was in my addiction, I would stop for a while and then go back in, like you were saying. And he just didn't get it. He didn't get it. It's like, why do you start again? Why did you start again? Well, you just don't understand. There's no way to explain it to him,
Well, you start again and you do it again because that's what you know how to do.
Right.
It's
your feel good.
Yeah, well, there's that part to it too, but people are afraid of change. Perfect. I see guys go back to prison for 10 or 15 years, and they're more comfortable going back to prison than changing their life because of the unknown of what that looks like. Right. It's incredible that we'll continue to do what we do and tell ourselves that we're going to do it different, and it's going to work this time. There's only so many times you can do that. I think it's different for everybody, because I know I've exhausted every avenue to make that okay. But even after you do that, I think you still, without the proper tools and the proper help and acceptance, you end up at the same place again anyway. So that's
well put.
I was really, I'm just going to say this.
Okay.
I was really relating to some of the stories you were talking about, especially the one where you were found in the mud behind our apartment complex, because I got really, 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 really drunk one night, and I had been sober for 3 months.
Somewhere
like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to meet a friend that I met in.
What are the recovery
Yeah,
centers?
whatever
one of
recovery,
them.
yeah, whatever recovery. Yeah.
There were a lot.
Yeah.
So, but I went to meet her for dinner, and I was already drunk. Al had gone. Where'd you go play golf somewhere?
Yeah.
And so I had started drinking just after he left, and I have this meeting with her, and everything goes good. She's like, "I don't think you should drive home," and because she could tell, of course, and I ended up doing it, driving home. I drove home. I don't know how I got home. And once I got home, I wasn't going to go inside because Al already knew I was drunk and there was a fight happening if I went inside. So I told him I was sleeping in my Xterra. And I got out of my Xterra to go have a smoke because there's a certain smoke spot in our apartments. And that's all I remember. And Al said he found me on the parking lot ground. I had
in the middle of the
both
parking
eyes
lot.
were bruised, everything like that, and I was actually seizing by the time we got into the apartment. He took me to the hospital, and I told him to get the fuck out of here. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I put him through a lot, but that I really related to that story. It's like no matter what happens to you, you keep doing it until you're ready to stop. Until you say, "Okay, I'm done." Tell your brain. I think it's like a brain thing happens that you just
brain thing, or God
That's it.
finally
Yeah,
slapping
God.
you upside
Yeah.
the head and going,
Yeah,
get your act together, right?
Yeah, it's some kind of
it
epiphany.
can't happen
that
until you're ready to
you
fix
make
happen.
that choice,
Yeah.
and then you just do it. And I don't know. I've seen people that had multiple years go back out there, but for me, my life changed so much that I've seen the better side of life.
Yeah.
That I would no longer change my friends and family and my job and all the things I got going for me. That's better than I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
To go back to that lifestyle. So I've actually seen what's on the other side.
Right,
You know what I mean? It's and I wish I could bottle that up and give that to the people that are how would you say don't have the faith that can happen or that they can do it.
Right.
Because if you've never done that, you've never been there. How do you know and have the faith that you can have this if you put in the work?
Right.
It's easier to go back to the
What you
failure and what you know,
Right.
and accepting that, knowing well what that's going to be, because we all do. I've watched people, close personal friends, that have just went back there and they're no longer with us.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
the
Because that
amount of-
happens a lot,
yeah,
too.
the amount of loss
happens a lot.
is huge in my life from friends and acquaintances that have just done that, and then that was their last time. They're gone.
Yeah, we've had guests on our show who had friends that died in their arms, and it still didn't even wake them up, right? So
No, they
it's
still
a
keep
tough
doing
one.
it, yeah.
Well, guys, stay with us. We're going to have a really good second half of the show. We're going to hear Marlin's story about where life started changing for him. And again, it's possible. Anyone can do it if they put their mind to it. So stay with us.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast, I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. We are here with our special guest, Marlin, and our special guest co-host, Jeananne. So, guys, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
As I say, probably the majority of the time when we start a second half of a show, the first half was just freaking awesome. I mean, really, I enjoy doing this so much to just hear where people's journeys have gone. And I know when we first started doing this, I started thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to be interviewing people from all types of addiction and people on the other side of addiction, people who have been through the addiction. And as we got going, I'm like, almost all the people's stories are the same. And then as we got going a little bit more, I realized they're not. Their journey's different. Mm-hmm. The stories sound the same, yeah. But the journey is completely different. Mm-hmm. And when we got ready to go for a break, we were talking about you were just getting in Tosa. You were there with Robin and Matthew, and you guys all kind of came in around the same time. And you guys were taking your journey on that, where your life definitely started changing. And I want to go into that, but something I want to touch on before we do. You mentioned being afraid of change. Mm-hmm. And for me, my belief, I really believe that's something that every single person suffers from, is the afraid to change, because it's the unknown, right?
Right.
I mean, do I want to walk through this door when I don't know what's on the other side?
Yeah. And
now, being up there in age, I mean, I'm getting close to 60 here. In July, I'll be 60, which I'm proud of it.
What does that feel like?
Proud of it.
I want to know what that's like, 'cause I'm kitchen, so.
I do my best I go to do my best to go to the gym every day. And my wife will tell you I still flirt with 20-year-olds, and it helps me kind of think that I'm still 20. So
that doesn't sound very good, baby.
Well, you're the one that picked it out at the high school reunion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, still, yeah. But, I don't know. What I really enjoy about it is I've gotten so much wiser with things, and I have really opened my view. Now, I know people who are in their 30s and their 40s. They've got it a lot sooner than I did.
Sure.
They really started opening their vision, and they started realizing, hey man, the change is constant. And if you're willing to do the change, you'll be surprised where life will take you, as long as you don't try to control it, right? All our lives, we're trying to control our lives. And I tell you what, listeners, if you're hearing this, if you're trying to control your life, you're going to F your freaking life up. That's just how I see it. Because God has a plan for us. Yeah. He knows which direction our vehicle's going to go. And if we're trying to steer that vehicle in another direction, we're probably going to hit a wall. And that's one thing that I've noticed. And I'm very grateful to be able to even be the age that I'm at, because I have lost friends who are no longer here, just like you have, like all of us have. Mm-hmm. who haven't had that opportunity, right?
Correct.
So I'm definitely grateful for everything that I've gone through and helped me learn and realize, because if you're tired of how life is, and there's so many people that want to pretend that my life is, oh, great. A lot of people on social media, man, they post it like they're Cinderella, or they're King Anthony, or whoever they may be. But really, when you talk to them off grid, they're the most miserable people. And I think we all do that in our life. We all pretend that that life is better than what it really is. And by making these changes, I really do believe it helps us get to where we really need to go, right? Because Janan made a comment to me years ago when she was in the depth of her addiction. She's like, because I was telling her what a lot of people say, just quit. Just stop.
Yeah, that's the old
Come on, man.
Wasn't that the Nancy
Right,
Reagan thing?
just
Yeah.
stop.
Do you-
Again, it's
Just
that
say no.
magic pill, right?
say no,
If there
yeah.
was, just say no, right?
Do you mention this in every single one of your podcasts?
No. Quite a few of them, though.
Every two, I hear it all the time. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Just stop. Now I don't know where I was going to go with this.
Yes, you did.
Um,
You were telling me to just stop, and
then you stop. Then
I said,
Anyway, I'll figure it out. I'll come back to it. But just stop. And she goes, I love ice cream. And it was the fear of her not ever being able to drink again, right? So she threw out to me once. She goes, what if I told you could never have ice cream again the rest of your life? And I thought, oh, wow. And then, of course, I'm justifying it. Ice cream's not bad for you, right?
It's fat.
Alcohol is.
Right.
But yet I am putting a shitload of sugar in me, which is not good for you. So, yeah, again, I think the fear of the unknown, and I know a lot of people who have been on the show, even the fear of going through recovery and that fear of wanting to change, thinking that their life isn't going to be better. And also, one of the things I know that TOSA does, they dig deep in that character defect, right?
Oh, yeah.
They go in with the knives and the spoons and everything. They're doing everything they can to
I don't
dig
like
it
the
out
word
of you.
character defect.
I do.
What's a better choice of words?
Yeah, I think it is.
I know,
Yeah.
but when you hear character defect, you think, or a defect, you think there's something wrong with that person.
Well, there is.
Well,
There
it
is.
is, but it's not,
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
like the character defect kind of wrong. I can't explain it.
Well, character defect for me, I had a lot of them. The way I treated people, the way I came across to people, the way I did relationships, the way I did my life was typically a character defect, and those were ones I took on being around people that influenced me, that I bought into, that I followed that direction. And character defect means anything that's not going to be something good in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That's just things that you can change to better your life. And,
Right.
Yeah.
and that's how I look at it.
That's why
Yeah.
I don't like the word, because it's like, it makes you think something's wrong with that person. But it's just I don't know.
I know some of my character defects that I have worked on for years, and some I have mastered, and others I'm getting better at it, is just molds of how we were brought up, right? You and I were talking about that before we came into the studio. And I'm not knocking our parents, because they did what they knew, right? They had their character defects.
Over and over.
Yeah, so it continues to go. However, there are a lot of things as I've gotten older, I started realizing it's like, I've been looking at this the whole freaking wrong way this whole time, and I can choose whether I want to keep that if it benefits my life, and if it's not, why would I want to keep it? I mean, I think that's why I spent a lot of my life, especially when I had friends come up and tell me after I lost my job that they didn't trust me. And it's not that I ever stole from them or anything like that. I was respectful in that, but it was more of, I was a manipulator. I played games with people. I did what I needed to do to get what I wanted to get.
Yep.
And it slapped me in the face so freaking hard, going, I just make my life more miserable by doing that. You know, I would rather live by the integrity and have people trust me. And I'm a firm believer, man. It takes a lifetime to build trust, and it only takes one freaking thing to destroy it, right?
Yep.
It's a tough one. So, so I like that you said the afraid of change. And I wanted to touch base on that before we kind of started going a little bit further. So you go into TOSA, they start working on you, right? And you started realizing,
resenting and pushing back,
right?
That kind of stuff. You know, them character defects kicked right in.
Right. And you kind of started. How long did it take for you to start noticing a change? Because I know a lot of people, when they start going through those programs and they start going through, I don't want to say games that they play, or they're almost like a game. You know, it's hard for people to take, right? It's hard to listen to a room full of people basically point your character defects out to you, right? It's hard. It's humiliating in a way, almost. You
know, there was this one time that humiliation got brought up. At least that's what I saw, and the first thing I said is, you know, that's cruel, that's rude. I don't like you because of what you did to make somebody feel bad about their behavior. And I was mad about that. That was one thing I was using to like push back that I'm not going to be part of this, or I'm not going to buy into this. And I saw Joseph Grinny pointed out to me that there's a difference. When you humiliate somebody for your own personal gain, put somebody down, bully somebody, that type of humiliation is totally different than humiliation to make somebody see and change their behavior in a positive light. And I was looking at it for the other side. And one thing that they showed me that brought that to my light was there was a country that Joseph showed me that they had this problem with accidents and people speeding and not obeying traffic laws. And they had brought all these cops on to try to fix that problem. And it wasn't helping. So what they did was they got rid of all the police and they put mines on the corners of every corner strategically down this section where people were breaking the rules and speeding and all these crashes were happening. And if you sped or you broke the law and didn't conform to what the law was for driving, when you got to and this is a small town, right? When you got to the next stoplight, these mines would come out and dance around your car and make fun of you. And all these other cars and everybody in the town would see these mimes running around the cars and making fun of you, and they knew you did something wrong. It didn't take very long for those people living in that town that didn't want to be mimed at the intersection for everybody to see. They changed their behavior. So they used humiliation in a way to gain positive change.
Right.
And when he showed me that, and I watched it on the video when he did one of his classes, I was like, wow. It totally changed my perspective of that and how that's used, that humiliation thing. And that's really what they do in the whole confrontation games, or they call it something different now. But but I mean, you get 30 people roughly in the room. When I first got there wasn't any people higher than like sophomore, so all the confrontation and all that pointing out of your character defects came from Dave and Lola and all the staff members that came from Delancey Street that had 9-10 years of perfecting that art.
Yeah.
So we got beat up pretty bad. And they'd have to put you back together sometimes after games, or they let you stew in it till you come to that epiphany of what you did wrong and be able to fix it. But that's a whole different story of how long it takes to be able to gain on that and perfect the change.
Al went through one of the games when we went up there to tour the place.
Yeah.
They said, "Do you want to try one of our games?" And he went through it, and oh my gosh, I was because I knew what it was like. Because Odyssey House is kind of like that.
Pretty much encounter group.
So I knew what it was like. And then we go in and they were doing it to him and he started sweating.
Oh yeah, I could feel the beads of sweat
he
forming
felt
up
so
on my
uncomfortable.
forehead.
I'm like, yeah, that's how it is, hon. And it's just like certain people can handle that. I could never do that because all I think the whole time was what a piece of shit I am, because that's one of my character defects. You know, I think really bad about myself. So I used to anyway. And so, yeah, I could never handle it. But he Oh my gosh, poor guy. I felt bad
it
for
was
him after we.
it was a really good experience for
Yeah.
me, though, because I tell you what, when we left that night, they did the tour. They asked if I wanted to participate. They fed us, and then I got up and spoke that night. And on the way home, I mean, seriously, that's all I could think of.
Oh yeah.
It frickin' stayed ingrained in my head, I bet you, for up to a week. And
it wasn't even real.
It was just a game. It wasn't
Yeah.
real. Okay, the stuff they were accusing me of didn't really happen.
Yeah, it wasn't
However, it really got me thinking. I'm like, my hell, I really got to start. I got to dig deep, and I got to start thinking about some stuff very, very seriously.
Changing your
and I've been working on
habits and
changing my life since 2009, since I lost my job, and
Right.
being a better person and loving people more and not out for just me. I mean, I want to take care of myself. Yeah, because you got to look out for yourself. However, I wanted to start spreading some more love, and I wanted people to know that they could trust me and that I could be honest, and my integrity meant a ton to me, because, man, if someone has a problem with me, it hurts, and it's like, I don't want that to happen ever again. So yeah, that game really, really got me thinking. And here it is. It's been over a year since that happened, and it still comes up in my mind. So I can see what a great tool it is.
Oh, yeah.
How you're doing that shift.
Yeah, I got beat up for like 3 years. I mean, at least 2 of that was heavily beat up, gloves off. And I fought, and I was grumpy, and I was angry, and a lot of screaming and yelling, and you don't like me, you just don't like me, and it's like a marathon at Odyssey House is like games every day,
right.
And you only go through a marathon when you have an issue. So, but this is like having an issue with everybody in that room 3 days a week. It's intense. Like you said, to have everybody that's around you all day that see how you treat people, how you handle your day, how you take advantage of that day in your work ethic and your being on time to stuff, handling your homework, handling your job, and your personality, and all that mixed into one arena for everybody to tell you how well you did. There's some of that, but more so what you've done wrong on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And where else in the world can you get that? Because very few people out there are going to tell you about yourself, because they're not comfortable with that. They don't want to do that, or they just don't care enough about you to tell you the truth. So you go into this situation where you have all these people in the room, and they're telling you about yourself. Some because they care and they want to help you, and others because they don't, and they're going to tell you, you're a piece of shit because we don't. I don't
give a shit, right?
Yeah, so you have to jump from the other side of that to saying, well, you're just telling me that because you don't like me. Well, it doesn't matter if they don't like you or not. They're giving you information. You can either take it and change, or you can discount it and not. So it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to take in, and but it changed my life. I mean, there's no other way to do that. And I was one of them people like Shaggy. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. You don't know what you're talking about. And you could have me dead to rights. And I was
still denying.
Yeah, I'm still in denial. And I slowly worked through that to where now, I'm in a company where I'm responsible for all kinds of things and millions of dollars of job site jobs that if I make a mistake, I'm the first to say, you know what, I should have done this, and guess what, it's not done right, or there's a mistake here I got to fix, or, being responsible, that's helped me to get where I'm at now, and I owe that all to the change in the Other Side Academy and teaching me how to be accountable and how to be responsible and how to be on time and be early, how to be honest with people, how to tell people the truth, how to treat people. I mean, it's the list goes on of the things that I've learned to be able to be a success with who I am now, and a lot of really good influential people that care about you, not for who you were in the past, of who you are now and what you've worked to, and it's an amazing thing that I wish everybody could see that and be able to understand what change can do and influential people can do in your life. I pick my friends like a football team. if I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a football team, I'm going to pick the best guys I can so I can win, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I pick my friends based on my circle of influence and what they have to offer me and what I have to offer them, be like-minded, and then they're going to help hold me accountable, help me excel in all aspects of my life so that I can pull towards where I want to go and push me to where I want to go. If I don't, then I'm going to gravitate back to the people that were on the other team that gravitated me towards where I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And that's how I pretty much live my life in every aspect of my job, my personal life, and it's made my life what it is today.
I love that you put it that way, Marlin. I mean, that's a great way of looking at it. I was a big softball player for a lot of years, and that was a gal who was a woman coach. And that's what she did. She went around and watched other teams play, and she picked certain players, and then she'd go and get with them and say, I'm putting the team together. And I was fortunate enough to be someone that she asked to come on her softball team.
Nice.
And we were a frickin' kick-ass team. We all played together. We all supported one another. We all patted each other on the back if we screwed up. We were there to support one another. There was none of the fighting, none of the arguing, none of, well, you did this and this is why we lost. There's none of the blaming game. And I still didn't even see it back then, because again, my head was off somewhere else. I was still in the old shell of me. So I like that how you put it that way, because Gina and I was talking probably months and months ago, 6-7 months ago, might even been longer than that, where we have said we cannot believe the type of people that we hang around with right now.
We talk about that all the time. It's just amazing to us.
Yeah, the people that we're involved with, they're just amazing people.
Yeah.
And we learn from each other. I mean, I work with a couple guys, with 3 guys that, I tell you what, there's sometimes we just stop doing what we're doing on a job, and we are just like, we're in it deep, and we're sharing different things about our lives, and someone says, yeah, instead of looking at it this way, try looking at it this way, and you're going, oh my hell, yeah, I didn't think of that. Because again, we get lost, right, in our own sorrow and our own bullshit, and it's nice to have someone there that basically slaps you on the ass and says, hey, nice game, this time try this a little different, because your life is so much better. I mean, you don't have the games, you don't have the drama, you don't have the bullshit of where our lives were before. So, great way of saying that, yeah.
Well, like, one of the things that helped me the most, remember I said earlier that I learned how to quit. In my journey at the other side, about a year and a half in, something like that, I got confronted about something I did. And I straight out lied. I straight out fabricated, didn't own up to. Dave came into a group and confronted me about something. And I'm like, no, that wasn't me. You're thinking of somebody else. I don't know why they would say that. I totally lied. And I held on to that for a couple of days, and they set me on the bench and they continued to ask me about it. And I finally admitted to my responsibility in that. Part of my punishment, wouldn't say punishment, but the consequences of my actions was being put on a 7-day contract, which is basically you get up in the morning, you work, you can talk to people. You can talk to people. It's kind of like the limbo thing.
I was on that one.
Yeah, and so when this was Thanksgiving, when I finally owned up to it, everybody was having this big festive party, and they handed me, you get these symbolic like 3 yellow shirts, and while you're on contract, so everybody knows that's for that whole period of time you wear that shirt. And at any time anybody in the program can come up and say, what are you on contract for? And you have to explain to them what you did, take responsibility. And you got like 60, 70, 80, 100 people, depending on how many people are there, that can come up and ask you. And then they can confront you in games as well on, they can't ask you about the specifics, but they ask you why you're on contract. And mine would be that I lied and was dishonest. that turning point in not quitting was pivotal. Whatever you say that. It was a turning point.
It works.
I'll take it because that's how I talk.
Turning point in my life.
Yeah.
I had those 3 shirts, and at the time I lived across the street from the main house, and I had to physically walk over and had somebody walk with me over to change into the yellow shirts. And I'm standing there at the crosswalk, and I'm like, my old addict mind's going, so you came here voluntarily, you're not court ordered, you can leave anytime. You don't have to be here. Screw this place. I had enough, all that stuff, man. Being mad. It's everybody else's fault. I was mad at the world. I'm not sure I was mad at myself exactly yet, but I was mad. And I thought, I'd just leave. And then I ran the real story through my head, what I was going to do. Once again, I would walk. I had nowhere to go, right? So the first phone call would be, hey, Mom and Dad, I just left the program. I got nowhere to go. Can I come sleep on your couch? Or, will you feed me? Can I drive your car? Whatever that looked like, which I'd done 100
take care of me.
100 times over.
Me.
And instantly what would happen was they were going to go to the family's house, to have Thanksgiving. And it would automatically, everybody be in panic mode. He's coming home. What's going to happen? That whole, ruin their whole, Thanksgiving based on my selfish decision to not take responsibility and push through hard things that I'd never done before. At that point, I made the decision to not do that for the first time in my life and go through this hard time that I created for myself. Nobody else did that. And I walked across the street, put those shirts on. I came back, and I was mad. And they were taking pictures, for Thanksgiving. I'm like, don't you dare take my picture. And Steph was like, oh, no. And it took me a little bit. Robin was sitting there at the table, and a couple other people having Thanksgiving, and they told me, come sit down. And I sat down. And for the first time, I felt the love and care about me. Not what I did. They're mad as hell about what I did.
Right.
But they still love me. And I proceeded to finish my contract, do it the best that I could do, be a good example, and finish that and went right back to, my status where I was, my position. And that was the first time that changed in my life. And I learned how to do hard things. Then the next hard thing was what I told you about before, by losing my job there because of a bad decision thinking about myself. And once again, found myself in a circumstance that I could have blamed and pointed fingers again. And I learned again how to do hard things and work through what processes. And they helped me get an apartment, help me get where I need to go, transition into a new job, and all the things to do hard things. So they taught me the most important lesson I ever learned was how to do hard things and how to push through and not go back to pointing fingers and getting high and going back into that cycle of addiction. And I love them for that. But those, there's an epiphany moment for everybody. I think at certain points that you change something, whatever it is for you, to do something different and push through hard things. And it's hard. It's easy to go push other people to take care of you.
Of course.
Poor me,
right.
and can I have a sandwich and can you put gas in my car? Can I, that poor thing. My dad now, he's like, I go do something, he wants to give me money. I said, I think all them times that you put gas in my truck, I think we ain't even close to it. We ain't even close to even keep your damn money, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, yeah, okay, but so life is really good, and like the my relationships at the Other Side Academy, and I try to go back there as much as I can, time permitting, to try to be a part of that and influence and show that there is the possibility of sobriety and a different life. And next month will be 8 years for me. 8 years sober.
Congrats, man. That is awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
It goes to show that it is possible. And learning, because you touched on it, Marlin. It's so much easier to turn the page and say you're the reason why all this is happening. And there are times I still find myself doing that at times, and sometimes it takes me 24, 48 hours, sometimes a week to start thinking about it and go, yeah, you know what? It was really me. And to be able to own up to that, to say that it's just another stepping stone towards the growth, right? Because, we all make mistakes in our life, which Janan and I, we've been talking about here lately, and And hopefully we can just all learn by it instead of blaming other people with why my life's the way that it is. You know, because I did that a lot of years with in the depths of her addiction. You know, I blamed her for pretty much everything. You know, and I mean, yeah, did her addiction add a lot of fuel on the fire? Oh, hell yeah. It definitely did. However, she wasn't the total part of it. You know, I had to really dig deep, and it took me 7 years to figure it out. I'm a slow learner. I'm a slow learner. Yeah. But once I did, I started realizing, you know, and I've shared on the show a lot of the mistakes I made during that, you know. Just you start owning up to it, and you stop pointing the finger at everyone else. And you're right. Your life ends up your life ends up turning out to be better. And I also helps us get more immune when the tough things do come to us, right? Our skin gets a little bit thicker, and we get wiser on how to deal with it instead of letting us taking us to our knees. And I mean, I felt that way even this morning, man. I mean, it's just like, holy shit, everything's just piling frickin' up, and it's like I'm working so damn hard to make a better life and to change. And I mean, ever since last night, I feel like I got knocked upside the head with a freaking shovel. You know, I didn't sleep much last night, and it's like
God has always came through for us. Yeah, so what? Stop worrying. Stop stressing. Kind of
have to start maneuvering your way through those cones and finding that straight path again. So yeah.
Yep.
Man, this has been a really, really good show, man. Marlin, it has definitely been an honor having you here with us today. Yeah, so thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Before we sign off here, is there anything that you have that that you want to share with our listeners that they can gain from your story? And if you do, look in that camera right there, because that way they're looking right in your eyes as well.
I wasn't sure which way to look. Not sure which my best
you can sit and do all of them, but it's usually that camera right there. But yeah, it's just something that you feel, man, is just gonna hit them hard.
Well, I think that I've been through a lot with my addiction and put a lot of people through just about every scenario you can put them through. And I think that anybody can change. It doesn't matter your circumstances, what you've been through, what you've done. If I can do it, you know, I'm 56 now, started my recovery sobriety now at 50, that, you know, you can teach old dogs new tricks. Right? You know, this dog will hunt. It didn't used to before, you know. But you gotta put the work in, and you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to make that commitment, and you have to do hard things, and have faith that you can do something different, and it's going to be better. And surround yourself with people that can help you do that. There's so many different things out there that are fits for people to change their lives, with programs and things available to, you know, help with, you know, changing your behavior, changing your life. You just have to ask for help and be willing to do whatever it takes to do that. I'm living proof that life can be amazing. You know, I mean, I have everything back. I mean, I went from homeless on the street, nothing, sleeping in a box, you know, to now I have a great job. I'm a superintendent at a concrete company. I have a fiance, Teresa Dillingham, that's going to be married Cinco de Mayo next.
Awesome! Congrats!
And I have a great relationship. I have a Harley that I always swore I wanted to get when I got sober and wasn't out there trying to kill myself. That I could do that, you know. And I hadn't had a bike since high school, you know, and I almost killed myself on that one. So I figured, you know, once I get sober, me and Matthew and Robin, we all said we're going to get bikes, and we did. You know, we all ready to get them. My fiance has a bike, and I have a truck, a car. You know, I just got a new company truck, and with my job, I have a brand new 2022 Ford F-150 that somebody gave me and said, "This is yours to drive, and we're gonna give you this job and give you this responsibility," just to try to put that into perspective of where I came from to now. it's amazing. And I'm not saying that's going to happen for anybody else.
Yeah.
Whatever your dream can be is whatever your dream can be. But I made that happen with changing my life, and you can too. You just have to do that. And I have my family back. I do things with all my family. I have the trust back. You talk about trust. I couldn't even, because of some of my past stuff with forgery. Whenever my mom couldn't find her checkbook, she'd ask me where it's at, and I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It's taken me a long time to get to where now. My family's like, well, why don't you go up to the cabin? You can stay. Go ahead and use that. Go down and use the condo down in St. George if it's free. They give me responsibility, and I'm there for them if they need help, and they're there for me. And that whole thing that was broken so badly is back fixed. It's like that country song. You played it backwards. I got everything back.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just want everybody to believe in yourself, and that if you're willing to do it, that there's hope out there, and you can do it, and you can get your relationships back. Not always. I mean,
yeah, you'll lose some.
You'll lose some.
But those are the ones who are meant to be out of your life anyway, right?
Some people have had problems, and family members are not willing to work back through that.
Yeah.
They've been hurt enough to a point where they're not willing to get that trust back or whatever. That's not anything that you can fix. It's out of your control. You just have to keep on, doing what you can, and some things we can't repair. Some things are broke beyond what we can fix, and you have to accept that and move on and best with your life. But I'm a true believer that people will come around, and you'll be able to get your life back, and it'll be better than you've ever possibly imagined it could be.
And you touch base that for me, my belief is one of the biggest things. I mean, other than having the belief and the faith in yourself, but surrounding yourself by those type of people. Because I tell you what, the magnet works both ways, right? If you are looking at life in a negative way and how your life is and drama and everyone's picking on you, you're going to be around those same type of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're going to draw it to your life.
Yep.
You want to change your life? Because I know ever since I decided in 2009 and I started working on myself, the people that started coming into my life, it was a slow trickle for a while because I still had my growing pains that I had to go through. Once I started getting through those growing pains, it started turning into a constant flow. And still to this day, it's still happening. And I love the people that we get to be around all the time. We're around some of the most amazing, inspirational people, and those are the ones I want to be around.
Right.
Because they're changing my life, and hopefully we're changing theirs at the same time.
Yeah.
We all look at life in that same way. So I love that you touch on that point, because that's huge. And anyway, that's how I see it. So.
I've changed my life to such a 180-degree difference from my criminal behavior. I used to run from the police. Everything to do with the police was, I don't want, look out for them.
Yeah.
To now I'm out, like Matthew, I'm an honorary colonel, and I ride with the police. I ride with the chief of police and all that whole thing with Fred and Taya and Matthew, Robin, and Robert, and all that, and Dave, and that my whole circle has changed to where now I'm part of that. But I was over here, now I'm over here. And I have people on, that are, congressmen and stuff like that, from the other side Academy that are on my Facebook, and you're like, people I would have never thought that I would ever even even talk to me, give me the don't they know who I am? They wouldn't, So it's so amazing. I can't even. I was gonna get married at, and Joseph's like, well, you can use our house of red ledges, and I'm like, I'm a little nervous of it. It's too good to be true. People offer and do things for you based on, care and love that you earn based on changing your life and just the hard work. And I can't even touch on how amazing that is.
Yeah.
Amen. Mm-hmm. Jeanette, is there anything you'd like to share before we sign off? No?
No.
Okay. You're just going to ditto off of what Marlin said? Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Again, this has been an amazing show, man. Again, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Loved having you here in the studio with us. So, again, thank you to all our listeners, all our many sponsors, Resilience Talk Network, all our incredible guests, all our incredible guest co-hosts. Man, thank you guys for everything. We're going to leave you with this, as we do every week. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.